Welcome back to the White Gray Black Weekly Manga Podcast. My name is Bruce, the producer of the White Gray Black YouTube channel. With me again this week is Gautam.
What's up?
This is a book club, but not for books. It's for manga. And what are we reading? Everything that's currently being published. This week, we're talking about One Piece Chapter 1081, a new series from the creator of Kuroko no Basket called Kill Blue, that premiered in Weekly Shonen Jump, and of course, our classic favorite, Chainsaw Man, Chapter 127. So, let's get started with a little bit of news this week. This is a fun one to start with. There is going to be a Mashle stage play in Japan, which was just announced.
Okay. Have you watched any stage plays before?
I saw a recorded version. There's a Nier Automata stage play called like Children of Something or Boys or Girl. I don't remember exactly. And I watched a little bit of it. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
One was I haven't seen it, but I hear that's like lore relevant. I just read what the plot was of that one. I don't really like stage plays like based on things that aren't I don't like stage plays based on shows or anime or anything like that. I do like Broadway stuff and musicals, but
yeah,
I'm not really big.
I agree.
On,
the stage is a
anime adaptation.
Yeah, the stage is a different beast, sort of compared to other media. The stage is, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, I've done some work on stage, obviously, in the past, nothing recently, but yeah, it's a manga being adapted onto a stage play feels weird. And from what I understand of most of these stage plays is they're kind of like, I don't want to say cheap cash-ins, but it's kind of the same angle that like, what's the like cafes that pop up, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where it's like the JoJo Cafe, and it's like, okay, it's just a cafe, and they've, slapped there. Although I heard the JoJo one was really good. But like some of these cafes, right, it's like, oh, random rom-com cafe, and it's like, oh, there's a parfait on the menu, I promise, and it doesn't have anything to do with what's in the actual thing. Yeah. I don't think these are quite as low effort as that. Obviously, putting on a stage production is a high effort kind of thing. It's just kind of, I don't know, especially something like Mashle, which is like magic and super strength and stuff. Could be fun.
It doesn't, yeah.
Who knows? But feels strange.
I feel like live action anime suffers for a very similar reason, and that's the only reason I said I think Rurouni Kenshin works is because Kenshin, while not grounded compared to reality, is still way more grounded than like Mashle, right? I feel like trying to express like a cartoon effectively with live action people, it's hard because you inevitably make comparisons back to the original.
For sure.
I mean, stage play. Yeah. Sorry,
it was very much. So I was just gonna say it'd be very much like trying to do, I don't know, like Wile E. Coyote versus the Roadrunner, right? It's like that that's a cartoon. It's sort of physical and animated, and that's like the beauty behind it, the purpose of it, and to kind of put that one into live action and two on a stage feels strange. Now I saw a production of Lord of the Rings on stage, which, if I hadn't seen it, I would have said, oh, that'll never work on stage. There's too much magic. There's too much special stuff. Now, the production that I saw was like in London 10 or more years ago. No, like 15 years ago almost now. And it was like a multi-million-dollar production, like extremely high budget. In those instances, I think it works. I don't think that's what Japan is doing. I don't think that's what Mashle's doing, so...
Yeah, and a similar comparison, I saw The Lion King, and that worked really well too, and that's a cartoon. But yeah,
but it's so you saw like the New York style production of Lion King, right? That's like a totally kind of reimagined version, though, right? I mean,
effectively, like
the same story, but the costumes are all sort of unique and different. So yeah,
but cool. Yeah, interesting. I don't think it'll be great, but I don't think any stage play is great, So
yeah. One other real quick, just quick thing to add in the news. So Me and Roboco, that is the comedy in Weekly Shonen Jump. That anime is coming out in May. We got that announcement. And now for the big news, the big tall news. One Piece x McDonald's crossover. It's happening, and this is my favorite. This might be my favorite picture of 2023 this year. Bro, it's so good.
Big hat Zeph right there. I love
Zeph
it.
with a hat that's like, how many, like, literally 5 stories tall. If you include
That's
Zeph,
so
he's like
good.
6.5 stories tall. It's so goofy. But, like, yeah, speaking of, One Piece is pretty good at not getting low effort collaborations and crossovers. That's probably just
Yeah.
by virtue of it being the largest comic property outside of Superman. So, I don't know. This is hilarious. I think I've got one more
It's
picture in here.
interesting that you mentioned that because like if you look at that Zeph ad, right? Like it is mostly One Piece with McDonald's in the background.
It's
And that's
literally,
usually not the case. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is literally a regular McDonald's poster. It's like a yellow thing. It has 2 weird looking sandwiches. I don't. Something's weird with the bun on those.
That's
Maybe
so
they're
bad.
breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look kind of weird. And then there's just a picture of Zeph, and his hat is really tall. If you're listening to us audio, just search for One Piece X McDonald's crossover on Google, and I think you'll find it. It's a really goofy picture. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this other than it makes me smile in a way.
I like it. Yeah.
It's pretty goofy. All right, what else? This, we have an announcement. This is the Hinamatsuri creator Masao Otake. It was starting a new manga series on the alternative web service Harta Zero. Is that right? In late April 2023. I don't think we have a title for this. We only have this preview image, which feels very Hinamatsuri to me. I believe I watched the anime of Hinamatsuri. Did you also, or did you read it?
I read it. Yeah, I read it.
I think I maybe
a
read.
while ago.
Yeah, I think I maybe read to finish the story after I watched the anime because I don't think the anime adapted all of it. But one
Very
of the
good.
funniest manga and anime I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is. It is just very solid. Through and through, and it has a lot of heart as well. Surprisingly, so
It does.
yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I bet it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean this looks very similar. Kind of the
Yeah.
premise of Hinamatsuri was like a Yakuza guy adopts a hyper powerful Esper girl.
Alien girl.
Alien Esper girl, yeah. And this is like, oh, this is going to be the same archetype as Hina was in the original, but she's got a gun instead of Esper powers. She's like a hyper competent killer. I can see this being very similar premise, but yeah, you're definitely right that Hinamatsuri was, 1, really funny, and 2, yeah, had a lot of good heart, good character writing. All the side characters are really great, which is one of those things that really makes comedies shine. But the lead character is also great. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited for this because I didn't get to read Hinamatsuri as it was published. So
Yeah, for sure. It'll be hype.
cool. Speaking of new announcements, our favorite author, Kaguya-sama creator Aka Akasaka, has another new manga called Renai Daiko. Loosely translated, that's going to be like Love Agent. With art by Nishizawa 5mm. I don't know why that's the artist's name, but it is. That's going to be in Weekly Young Jump starting April 27th. So in about a week, new series from Aka Akasaka.
He's doing a lot right now. Damn.
And that's, I think that new series is going to be huge because everything. So I follow, a good deal of sort of anime manga people on Twitter. About a week ago, maybe not even a week ago, maybe like 4 or 5 days ago. No, it must have been about a week ago. Oshinoko episode 1 anime dropped. Literally my entire timeline was about the like 90-minute special episode 1 of Oshinoko. We might have talked about that. I think we talked about it last week, but
Yeah.
And so I think Kaguya-sama was already massively popular. I think Oshinoko is going to be equally, if not more popular. I think Aka Akasaka is going to be a household name in Japan, at least. And him launching a series right now is going to be really big. Even if I think it's a weak first chapter, I think this still sells pretty well. So curious to check that out. We'll probably get a translation. Maybe not for next episode, but maybe in 2 episodes we'll get one. Assumedly, if that launches in exactly a week, so we should get a translation in a day or 2 after that. So
There's a manga that came out like a year ago with a very similar name to this called Love Toxin. Or maybe it's Marriage Toxin.
Marriage Toxin, yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
people talk about that. I remember reading, I think, the first chapter and was like, that was okay. But
Yeah,
it didn't
I
stick
read
with
like
me.
2 or 3.
A lot of people rave about that now, and I'm kind of curious to go back and check it out. So I might do that.
It probably got better, and yeah, because I had the same kind of experience where I read like 2 or 3 chapters, and I was like, okay, that's fine. It wasn't bad, but I wasn't interested to keep going. But it sounds like it got better.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes we've talked about this, but sometimes the writing in the first volume will take a big twist at the end of volume 1, and that kind of pulls people in. So maybe it did something like that or introduced some new thing. But yeah, we should maybe think about checking that out. Did I grab a picture for this one? I didn't. Okay. Another new announcement. I just thought this was a weird, random thing to see. A new ancient India historical manga series, tentatively titled Jaina, by Inami Kota, starts in Monthly Young Magazine on July 20th. Historical manga about the first unification of ancient India following two men, Chatragupta and Kautilya? You might have to get that second one for me.
I don't know how to pronounce it. I've never heard that
Okay.
name before.
Yeah, I just there's always
the first one is Chandragupta though.
Yeah,
I don't know how to.
Chandragupta,
I don't know the second one. But what do you think of it? Because it's like it's interesting to hear that. It's cool as an Indian. It's like representation, neato. But at the same time, I find the premise of doing a historical manga to sound dull.
Yeah, I'm not sure of any historical manga outside of like
Kingdom,
but Kingdom's also kind of dramatized, I would say, probably to a severe degree. Yeah, I don't know. It's also strange. I was thinking like if they announced, I'm trying to think of something comparable. Like if they announced like, oh, a Japanese author is going to write about, Native American, like Cherokee tribe unification in Texas or something, I would be like, are they the right person to be writing that? I don't know.
Right.
But I don't know anything about this author, so maybe they have Indian heritage. Maybe it's just something maybe they're a scholar and they want to write it. Who knows? It just sounded like something that's like, oh, that's a very different theme and idea and story from most manga you see.
Japan and India are actually kind of tied together. Japanese people go to India and are kind of fascinated by Indian culture. Oh, yeah. Not to the extent that they're fascinated by French culture, of course. Yeah. That's their number one. But I kind of get why I'm not surprised to see an ancient Indian historical manga series being created. I just don't know if it'll be interesting. I think if it's heavily heavily dramatized like Kingdom or like Vinland Saga kind of a thing,
right? Yeah.
Then it could be very cool.
Yeah,
so hopefully it's like that.
I don't know if I would call Vinland Saga historical. It uses some names from history. I don't know. I haven't consumed much of Vinland Saga. I don't think it's actually based in much historical fact other than a couple of named characters, but yeah.
Yeah, like a fictional character in a
historical setting.
Yeah. Something like that.
It's interesting you mentioned the link between India and Japan, though, because speaking of Akasaka and Kaguya, I was remembering the minor. It was just one chapter in Kaguya where one of the characters goes to India. Maki goes to India, and that was hilarious because I believe that Akka said that he I don't remember if he wrote it in his notes or something, but he was like, "Oh yes, I wrote this chapter so that I could take a vacation to India and take pictures for reference." And that's the only reason that he wrote that chapter.
That's great. Dude knows how to balance work life. Clearly,
yes.
I think that's a page everyone. I think he has hacks on though, right? Because he's such a valuable person within the industry that he has the Oda privilege of doing whatever the fuck he wants.
He does, yeah. Power comes with being successful, absolutely. So
yeah.
One real quick plug I saw that is interesting to me and maybe some other people listening. Manga Plus, which is one of the big Western reading sites, right? Manga Plus is where I read Chainsaw Man and Dan and One Piece. Generally a superior reader experience over Viz, who sometimes publishes the same things. They have an official Twitter account, which they did not in the previously, which is kind of strange. But that's Manga Plus _O. So if you want to, go follow that. I followed that. Surprisingly enough, most of my news I don't get directly from sites or publishers because those people are pretty tight with news. And most of this news comes out of Japan first, right? So I'm getting most of my news kind of secondhand from Twitter accounts and Reddit posts and forum posts and blog posts and stuff like that. So
I like how their tweets are always new chapter up, exclamation mark. It's like the same tweet every time they publish a new chapter. Okay.
I actually think they just tweet at the same time every day. It's automated. It's just like new chapters. It doesn't even say what new chapters are up. It just says new chapters are up. It's the same tweet for
totally right.
Dan to Dan on Tuesdays, for Boys Abyss on Thursdays or whatever. It's like the same tweet every single day. I literally might be scheduled because I think chapters go up at 10 or maybe like 10:30, 9:30. But yeah.
It's kind of funny that they didn't create a Twitter before this and they lost at Manga Plus.
I was about to say, because
_0 behind it.
And I follow like a couple of Twitter profiles. So it's funny. I first saw this announcement through a Twitter user who's called Manga Plus ENG, right? Manga Plus English. And I was like, oh, cool. They have a new thing. And I copied Manga Plus ENG and put it in there. And then I was like, wait a minute. And I clicked on the tweet and it's like, that's not the actual Twitter account of its official Manga Plus. That's the like fan account that tweets a whole bunch of stuff. Again, of the news that I follow. So yeah, little curious there.
There is a From Software fake Twitter account with a ton of followers that just posts like fake From Software news and gets everyone like really excited for. They just keep saying Bloodborne's going to come out on the PC on 60 FPS announced, and everyone's like, "Whoa, yeah, awesome, man!"
I followed an account for, I don't even know, maybe 4 or 5 years. It was literally just, is Bloodborne on PC yet? And they tweeted every single day, no, Bloodborne has not been announced for PC. And then have you heard of Bloodborne Kart, the like fan game?
Oh, that looks so cool. Yeah,
they tweeted,
made the demake, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like a PS1 style like demake racing Bloodborne game. Whenever that got officially announced, that is Bloodborne on PC announced like Bloodborne is on PC and like quote retweeted the announcement or something. I thought that was pretty fun.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, that person's not to go off on a tangent, so I'm not going to. But that person's so talented. The Bloodborne demake is like good. It's a freaking work of passion right there. So go check it out.
I watched people play the demake a couple of years ago, and Bloodborne Kart also is looking like a true fleshed out game. I hope that they just like rebrand it and rename everyone and release it as like a paid game so they can make money off it. But we'll see.
I think even they have better that person's going to get a big job in the industry.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I wanted to do sales stuff real quick because I wanted to show. We talked for a while about. I guess we talk often about how big Shueisha is in the publishing sphere, and so I wanted to grab a week here where 9 out of the top 10 top-selling volumes in April, what is this, April 3rd to 9th, so 2 weeks ago or so, 9 out of the top 10 volumes here are all Shueisha, and they're all big things. Yeah. But I wanted to call out also, it's pretty cool to see lots of new stuff up here, right? This isn't just One Piece Kingdom, slam dunk, a bunch of the old dogs, the old guard kind of holding the line here. Spy Family is in number 1. That series is only, maybe 3 years old at this point. Chainsaw Man at number 2. That's again a generally pretty recent series, maybe 4 or 5 years. Is it 5 years old? I think it started in 2018 or 2019.
That sounds right.
Yeah, but Sakamoto Days is only 2 years old or so.
Very cool seeing it that high up.
Yeah, Mashal at number 5. Mashal is also a little over 2 years old.
Whoa, hold up, slow down. Grand Blue at number 4.
Yeah, a new Grand Blue volume after who knows how long.
Hell yeah, in contention, tied for the funniest manga I've ever read. Tied with Gintama.
And Grand Blue is the single non-Shueisha published work on this list. So
yeah.
Spy Family at 1, Chainsaw Man 2, Sakamoto Days 3, Grand Blue 4, Mashal at 5, Kishibe Rohan at the Louvre, I believe is a translation to this, is also Shueisha. Dragon Quest, The Adventure of Dai, Avon and the Demon, Volume 7, also Shueisha apparently owns Dragon Quest manga rights.
That's not surprising. The art's done by Toriyama, so I guess
that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, Toriyama's a big jump, so Witch Watch at 8 is another new. That's just over 2 years old. Also, that's in the same group with Mashle and Sakamoto Days, I guess, right? Were those all at the same time?
I think so. Like, at least very close together.
Yeah, and Witch Watch is not one I would have called ever being top 10, but there it is.
I
so
didn't
cool
think
to see.
so either. I thought it was too weird, and comedies usually don't place that high up. But hey, proven wrong. Grand Blue, Mashle, Witch Watch. Good to see.
Yeah, Grand Blue Mashle, Witch Watch. Even Kishibe Rohan at the Louvre, I think is... I don't know if it's comedy. It's a little bit more lighthearted than pure JoJo action, so...
Got it. Is this JoJo? It looks very JoJo.
It is JoJo, yeah. Kishibe Rohan is from part 4. He's the side character that has a... His power is related to manga. He can, like... Man, describing JoJo powers is not easy. He can, like, peel people open like a manga book and read them and predict the future and also write inside them to change what they can or can't do. He was, like, a bad guy at first, and then he, like, becomes a good guy later, I think, but... That's
crazy.
I mean, JoJo is a wild thing. But yeah, finishing out the top 10 here, number 9 is Goku Rakugai, which is a series that I really like. That's Shueisha. That's in there, I want to say, it says it's shonen, but it's a little bit more seinen adult, I would say. Cool to see that series up here. I think that series is really good, even though I think it's monthly published, so it's a little bit harder to keep up with. And then Jujutsu Kaisen, which has been coming in number 10, but has been on sale for like 20 days at this point. But yeah, every single thing we listed there owned by Shueisha except for Grand Blue. So, and this is what, since I've been keeping track of sales, this is what a lot of weeks look like. Even though I think the start of the year maybe has been a little bit more varied, which is good to see. But this week I looked at this week and the things that surprised me also happened to also be Shueisha works, like we were talking about. Witch Watch, Mashle, Sakamoto Days at number 3, I think is crazy good. Yeah, that keep in mind, Sakamoto Days doesn't have an anime. Mashle just got an anime, so that's only a couple episodes in, but that probably gave that a boost. Witch Watch doesn't have an anime yet, but I think it's announced. Goku Rakugai, no anime, so Sakamoto Days is going to be huge if they get that animated well. I think Witch Watch also, if they pull that off and it's executed well, I think that'll see a big boost.
I think Witch Watch will be easy to do. Sakamoto Days is going to be very hard.
Sakamoto Days might be one of the hardest things I've ever seen to adapt. Yeah. Just because it's like, if you're not getting all the team from One Punch Man Season 1 back to do Sakamoto Days, I don't know if it quite works out.
You're going to have to break the bank for Sakamoto Days, but I think it'll be a big payoff, right? It's so fucking fun.
It's also, I mean, the other quote-unquote problem with Sakamoto Days is it's like, it's all action. There's like a couple of chapters that probably don't have cool choreographed, like well-executed visual action in it, but almost every chapter does. And so it's like, that's an expensive anime to make, right? When an anime doesn't have to do action is expensive to draw. It's just more frames, more people paid, more details. Or if you don't spend all that time, the action looks bad. So,
yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, that about wraps up the news for us. So let's talk about the big boy. Let's talk about One Piece, Gautam.
All right.
Chapter 1081.
Yeah, that's me, One Piece. That's that's the chapter I picked this week. It was so fucking good. What the fuck? So good. Like, yeah, One Piece has been on a roll for a bit, sure, but I'd say this is one of my favorite chapters of One Piece that I've read in a while. Mm-hmm. Not saying a lot considering it's been so good.
Yeah.
It starts out, well, the last chapter ended with Garp punching so hard he obliterated Blackbeard's city. And I just like this little cheeky little temperament where he says he's lost his touch. He destroyed his city, but he didn't obliterate it into dust. He just ruined everything. I'm really curious. It makes sense because Garp and Roger fought head to head, and they're the two strongest characters in their prime. Yeah. So it's cool to see it in the series itself.
And this is something. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the cool things about One Piece is the historical. I mean, I hate to use we don't. I'm trying to think. How do I put this into words? It's world building, right? Is what I'm going to talk about. but it's the world building as far as the like historical events around the past pirates, like sort of the one generation ago pirates, the Roger's pirates, Whitebeard's pirates, Garp, all of that stuff is like really well fleshed out. And this is one of the angles we haven't seen before, right? We've seen flashbacks with Odin that talk about Whitebeard, talk about Roger. We've seen flashbacks or stories about Roger from some other people who I'm misremembering. What's his first mate's name?
Who's Whitebeard's?
Roger? Wasn't it Roger's first mate who they meet in...
Oh, Ben Beckman.
Beckman. Yeah. Is that right?
He has a gun.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
No, Ben Beckman is...
Oh, that's Shanks.
That's Shanks' first mate.
That's Shanks' first
mate. It's
the
old guy that they meet.
Riley. Silver's Riley. Yeah.
Silver's, yes. Riley.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. But he tells stories and stuff. Anyways, all this historical stuff is cool. We've seen Garp fight Roger, I think once in one of the Odin flashbacks, but we have not seen current power Garp, and so this is the first time we're seeing it, and it's like Oda is laying the groundwork, and I've seen a lot of comments on this, but Oda is laying the groundwork for, hey, there are some people you haven't seen since the time skip, there's some people you haven't seen even in the current era, like Garp, you don't know how strong they are, I need to show you, and I need to get them involved in the story because they're going to be important by the time the big climax comes around. And so this is cool to see because this to me feels like big foreshadowing of like, okay, Garp has a role to play in the end game, which I think most people would have said, of course he does. He's, a vice admiral. He's Luffy's grandpa, essentially. And all that stuff. And now, as you can see in this chapter, he's a like absolute badass. So
and I like I don't know if they revealed this before. I don't think they did. But it showed that he trained up all the admirals, like they were all his proteges at some point. Because in the next panel, or maybe it's a panel after that, but I'll go in order. Next panel it shows a flashback with Aokiji, Kuzan. And it's kind of a flashback showing how he joined the Blackbeard Pirates.
Yes,
and
which is kind of a big twist.
Awesome.
Yeah. Is it a twist to say that Aokiji, who's like one of the strongest people kind of from pre-time skip era, is now in league with who we assume is to be... Is Blackbeard the final boss, or is someone before?
I think Blackbeard is.
I think Blackbeard's... Blackbeard to me speaks more of the final boss than the world government does. To me, Blackbeard is after that, but I think you could swap it either way. It could be Blackbeard before the government people. Who knows?
I'm going to pitch to you why I think Blackbeard is the final boss in a second, and you let me know what you think and if you agree.
Yeah.
Because here, and it's cool because Aokiji is kind of morally just for being an antagonistic force in the series. He takes the side of good from the audience's perspective of good a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But he still works for the world government. He got in a fight with the other admiral over leadership responsibilities, and his leg got chopped off. He quit. And he went to Blackbeard's crew, and Blackbeard is kind of like the most evil motherfucker in the series, so it's surprising he joined his crew.
Yeah.
But it explains it really well, and I think this is why Blackbeard is such a good villain. Like, it's his pirates and his crew. It's like a win together kind of situation. They don't love each other like the Straw Hats do, but they're all on the same side to further their own goal. And yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's a really interesting other side of the coin to Luffy's worldview, right? I mean, you can see in the bottom of this page, the last two lines here are like, "You're free now, so what do you want to do?" Like freedom, like Blackbeard telling Kuzan he's free. That's like Luffy is also very tied to freedom, but they're kind of Luffy's freedom is like Luffy's freedom and Blackbeard's freedom are not the same type of freedom. Blackbeard's kind of a selfish. I mean, I would say Blackbeard is chaotic evil, although I don't really like the evil assignment in those. I usually, like when I'm playing D&D, I usually tell my characters if they're going to be chaotic evil, you're chaotic selfish, right? Yeah. Instead of, because evil is like, oh, I'm bad, I do bad things, but selfish is like kind of inherently bad in a way, but not so much in that I'm killing children, I'm killing puppies, but like your self-interest come before other people, and that causes you to do bad things usually. But it's kind of deeper to go there. But from what I see here is that Blackbeard is a chaotic, selfish character, right? His freedom and his pirate's freedom comes from we're free to do whatever we want, to walk over whoever we want, to exert our power over other people. That's our true freedom, right? Whereas Luffy's true freedom is I can do whatever I want, but he's also from an angle of, but I'm not gonna like, my freedom doesn't get in the way of your freedom.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I was like. Blackbeard's idea of freedom costs other people theirs, right? And Luffy's does not, and that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, perfect way to put it.
Same ideal. Yeah,
perfect way to put it right there. But it's, again, this is why I think we both agree that Blackbeard is the quote unquote final boss, and it's because it's he's a foil, right? He's Luffy's foil.
Yeah.
And that's a storytelling thing, and that generally is the fight. I don't think it necessarily has to be. I think you could fight Blackbeard before the world government, but because the world government is the opposite of freedom. It's essentially a form of slavery, a form of control being exerted. So which of those is the bigger bad guy? Who knows? But yeah, this chapter is great. And like you said, character stuff here is really good. It always surprises me. I never forget that Oda's a great writer, but sometimes he just writes stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, he can just write good characters and like make me understand a character's motivation. And yeah, Blackbeard recruiting Kuzan here to me was just one of those things that stood out as like, yeah, that's just really good. Like, I know Kuzan doesn't like totally, immediately buy in with Blackbeard, obviously, but like Blackbeard's selling him on that kind of, you're free to do whatever you want, don't let other people walk over you, the way that maybe he feels like the other admiral did, who took his leg, or the world government or whatever. I will say, this is a theory that I think maybe people had, maybe it was before the chapter, maybe it was in this chapter, I don't remember. Do you think that Kuzan, that Aokiji is Sword?
Yeah, so that's what people were speculating last chapter. I surprisingly did not put that connection together when they mentioned it. Yeah, it's really hard to say at this current point because he's intentionally preventing Sabo from being rescued. But maybe he needs Sabo there to topple stuff. Who knows, right? Like, I think since they mentioned it last chapter, I'm still on the side of yes, he is. I
also do think so. I think that Garp here, because in these pages it's Garp and Kuzan fighting, and Kuzan is like, you're as direct as ever, Garp. I've always loved that about you. I decided to live life on my own terms. It feels, I don't know, this feels like I'm trying to think of a movie or something where it feels like the scene where the double agent is like, oh, prove yourself, right? Like, hey, in front of Blackbeard's crew, stop, and he isn't just like wantonly killing, although I don't think that's in character for Aokiji either, but he freezes the one girl and then like kind of, he kind of lets Garp throw him, or maybe Garp is just that good. That's like the hard thing, right? Is it's like, I can't tell if he's like letting Garp kind of quote unquote beat him so that he can be like, oh, well, darn, I tried, but I let him get away because I'm secretly Sword. Or if this is like, oh no, Garp is actually just like stronger than the younger crew of, well, he's a previous, was Aokiji an admiral or a vice admiral? He's an admiral. Right?
He's an admiral.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I think Garp is just kind of, I think he's just winning the fight temporarily at the moment.
I also think Garp might not know. I think that I think Garp is the same as like Luffy, and like if Luffy had secret police under him, he would just forget their names or not know who they are. Like maybe Garp doesn't know, and Kuzan's like, "Wait, I'm Sword, don't kill me." In next chapter or something, right? I don't know.
I think
I could see that happening.
Garp is too direct to because he would mention it if he did, right? Like just
maybe.
Because he did that at the Reverie. Like, he just spilled, like, a top secret in front of everyone. He's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, well. Like, he's he's direct, just like Luffy. He doesn't...
He's
not
just old Luffy, pretty much, though.
Yeah, he's just old Luffy.
I don't think it's required. I do think there's been a little bit of foreshadowing for it, but I don't think it's super solid. So I think it would be cool if Aokiji if Kuzan was Sword, because I like the character, and even... I guess mostly I like him from the pre-time skip stuff where he like froze them and did all that, because he always seems sort of like, hey, I'm an admiral, but I get it. I get where you're coming from, kiddos. Like, I understand. And he was really just sent to go get Robin, right? And I don't remember. Was he the one who captured Robin? It's been so long now.
Yeah, so he was initially sent to capture Robin, I believe, and he didn't want to because he let Robin free in the first place.
That's right. Right. Yeah.
After the massacre at O'Hara, and
right, and they talk about that in this chapter again. So
yeah, exactly. It was good. Because it kind of developed Kuzan's character, even though he joined Blackbeard's crew. So in case you forgot, you still know that he's a morally just human being on the evil pirates' crew.
Well, it also does a good. I mean, and this is a little thing, but this also shows how good Oda is at weaving this like huge sprawling tale together. Is that this also reinforces the stuff that we've been hearing in the past 4 or 5 chapters about the man marked with flame, and how that's probably the giant guy from O'Hara, and how that's going to connect back maybe to Shanks being on Elbaf with the giants, because the man marked with flame, everyone thinks is that giant guy, whose name I'm forgetting now.
Saul.
Something
Diesel. Jaguar Diesel.
Jaguar Diesel. There you go. But again, it's like we've teleported, 1,000 miles to a different location with different characters and different story things, and Oda still knows to give us that kind of through line connector to the rest of the story that's clearly setting up something that's going to happen, maybe not soon, but eventually soon. Soon in One Piece terms, so a year or 2.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those excellent writing, world-building things where it's like, we don't forget about we don't forget about O'Hara, which has been brought up, like, I'm trying to think, in the last 8 chapters, O'Hara's been brought up, like, by 4 or 5 different characters in 3 or 4 situations. Jaguar Diesel is the man marked with flame, we're pretty sure. That's going to be important. That's been brought up a lot. It gets brought up again here to sort of tie this, Flash to a different location in. That's the kind of, like, wide, like, world building, story writing, epic writing expertise that Oda has that other people just, like, do not write at this level.
It really does feel effortless sometimes. It's so cohesive, and there's so much in every fucking chapter. Like I say every time I talk about One Piece.
We haven't even talked about the last, like, what, 6-8 pages of the chapter? Second half?
Seriously. Like, fucking seriously. One last point on this flashback. This is mentioned in a Reddit comment that I read on the chapter. It is cool how fun and kind of charming I find Blackbeard when he's an evil, ugly-looking piece of shit. Like, he's somewhat charismatic and I don't know, he doesn't feel like mustache-twirlingly evil sometimes.
He's got that.
He like yells at Aokiji for freezing his screws, like, bro, unfreeze him, come on,
He's got that. This is a wild take, but I think you'll agree with me. He's got that Joker appeal, right? He's got the appeal of like, oh, the Joker's, he's so funny, and he's a bad guy, but like, oh, I love watching him on screen, just like talking and doing stuff. I think Blackbeard's the same kind of character where it's like, do I like Blackbeard? No, but he's so like, he's so haughty, and he's so like, he's got that he's having
ego. A good time while doing whatever he's doing.
Yeah, he's got that ego and that smile, and like, he just comes in with this kind of like, he's the sort of stereotypical bad pirate swagger that we've seen in all the other stories, right? He's like, who is it? Like Long John Silver from Treasure Island, or whoever was that? I don't remember who the captain of Treasure Island is, but he's a very similar kind of pirate to Blackbeard, where it's kind of, lost a leg, but that pirate swagger, that kind of drunken pirate swagger. He's like the epitome, the like distilled version of that character, and that's why I agree with you. Blackbeard is an incredibly fun character to see on screen.
You said that smile, and it reminded me of that meme. It's like that smile, that damn smile. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Just put a picture of fucking Blackbeard up there.
But end of the chapter, we had one. Yeah, did I just get? Yeah, I added an extra picture.
Oh, the Beppo panel, cool.
I did. Yeah. I want to talk about that. So we also flashed. That was a flashback where we saw Blackbeard. But what Blackbeard's doing right now is taking down the Heart Pirates. Yeah, tell me about it.
And he done did it. It's kind of cool that. One thing that's cool is that we've seen all the supernovas, pretty much, except for the like angel guy. post time skip. We've seen them involved in every single arc pretty much after Fishman Island. And it's neat to see, like, right after Law and Kid take down a fucking Yonko Big Mom, they get one shot by Blackbeard and Shanks respectively.
Yes.
You know.
And this is why I understand why power scalers like One Piece, because Oda is really good. I mean, there is storytelling skill in power scaling correctly, and not all series do it. Like Dragon Ball Z is the big kind of careful how you power scale, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, Super Saiyan, oh Super Saiyan 2, oh Fusion Saiyan, Super Saiyan 7, right? Like Super Saiyan Ultra, like that is just kind of like, I've invented a new level of how strong things are, and I've given it a new name. Whereas in One Piece, power scaling is just like, instead of just saying, I'm trying to think how to say this. It isn't just the like, oh, they've all gotten a new number, the bounty number, and the bounty number's gone up, and that's how strong they are. It's instead Oda does the good thing, which is he shows us. He shows, he doesn't tell the power level, right? Dragon Ball Z, maybe not the best example, because it does also show power levels, but it's also like literally power level over 9,000 is a tell, not a show, right? Whereas One Piece here, you've said it exactly, right? You've got two supernovas taking down Big Mom, incredibly powerful, and then going off on their own and saying, okay, so their power level is above hers, and now saying, okay, but they aren't at the level of Shanks and Blackbeard, and Garp is also showing his sort of, there are still threats on the Marine side, because someone else we haven't seen is like Smoker, who I forget to even bring him up. He's like, I want Smoker to come back and wreck somebody, because he was one of my favorite characters. But
dude, poor Smoker, man. Yeah, he hasn't been back in a while.
Literally, I don't think we've seen Smoker in like. Have we seen him since the time skip? Yeah, he showed up at.
Yeah, he got owned at Punk Hazard.
Yeah. So it's been like 500 chapters almost since we've seen him.
Yeah.
But anyways, this is the way to do power scaling. This is a show don't tell of, you aren't saying, oh, and did you hear Blackbeard fought Law and beat his whole things, and Blackbeard's very strong. It's like, no, it's like shows them getting beaten. Blackbeard literally not a scratch on him, right? Like, it's got maybe like a little bit of scratches, but like he's not. Yeah, and he took down the whole. It isn't like he just 1v1 Law. Like he took down all of the Heart Pirates. So
right, well, him and the crew. But it's also important to note that Big Mom fought like a 1v20, right? Like she was a raid boss.
And they did 2v1 her technically, for the kill, but
yeah, exactly. So it makes sense that both of them would get slapped around by Yonko. Like, you can do a raid boss in World of Warcraft and down it, and it's like, oh, cool, you killed the Lich King, and then you die to a trash mob, right? Because you're not
when the new expansion comes out, because power has been scaled. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, but I mean, we could just gush about Oda, which is, I think, what we'll just keep doing here. Another thing that is a good show don't tell power scaling thing is that not only do they beat the pirates, but they break their ship in half, right? When that's like a very like, okay, our heroic characters and their ships have been pretty, I don't want to say indestructible, but like a ship is a very strong physical presence / character in One Piece, right? Like you do not see hero ships just get broken all the time. When they do, it's a big story event. I'm thinking of the Going Merry was the original Straw Hats cruise ship.
I
but
think
generally,
it also
right,
represents like the crew being dissolved, like the pirate crew is done.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that again, it is a storytelling thing to say. It isn't just, oh, I beat up your captain or I beat up your crew. It's like, no, I beat up your crew. I broke your ship in half. I forced, we'll see in the next page, I like forced two of you to run away. I agree. This is very much the Heart Pirates are kind of no more, right? It's just, I think, going to be Law and Beppo, assumedly coming to the aid or maybe trying to rescue their own crew or something. Who knows if they'll get that kind of storyline or not. But yeah, I really liked... anything you wanted to say about that before we move on to Beppo here?
Oh yeah, I think no, I completely agree. Like it's we talked about how it's like kind of symbolism, right? That it's just the ship breaking means the crew is breaking because the ship is their crew, right?
Yeah, their home base essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, their home base, and it like the One Piece universe. All the characters are super into symbolism and symbolic things. Like the Straw Hats declared war on the world government to save Robin by burning the world government flag, right? And that's the declaration of war. I think like the ships to pirates represent the exact same thing. It's just a declaration of the end of a war, or it's like this battle is concluded, your ship is bust.
Well, and the flag and the ship connection is also kind of there in the simplistic way because the Straw Hats, they create their own flag. The flag is flown on the ship. The Heart Pirates, quote unquote, flag is the symbol that most people associate with law, right? Which is actually the Heart Pirate flag. That weird smiley face thing. I don't even know how to describe it, but
it's a good Jolly Roger. I like
that one. And good call. I loved the callback. I didn't even remember it, of course, but to Chopper giving Beppo the like. Is this Sulong or is this just hyper?
That's
mode?
Sulong.
It is Sulong. Okay.
It's like the hallucinate the moon where they like a drug that makes them think the moon is there.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. But I thought this was cool because, people in the comments were like, polar bears are like the strongest, most dangerous bear. And Beppo was always like, if he went Sulong, surely he was going to be strong because he's kind of I think there's more Beppo in One Piece film Red than like any in the actual
Beppo's a meme. But he's beloved because he's just a cute looking bear. He looks sick here, though, right? Like,
looks really cool. All the Sulong forms, I think, have been awesome. Sulong is a neat idea that doesn't get used enough, obviously, because it's kind of hard to be like, well, it has to be a full moon. But with Chopper's drugs now.
Chopper invented acid.
Yeah, I mean, he invented, I'm trying to think, like...
DMT.
Well, you know how they'll say, like, a mother can, like, find the strength to lift a car if she, like, needs to save her child by, like, that. Yeah. So you've like, invented an imaginary child and drugged yourself into thinking you're the mother to give yourself extra strength, but it's the moon in the sky.
That's these laws, kid.
Yeah.
I like that. I think another thing I enjoy is, this is like a minor thing, is as much as Blackbeard succeeds, he also fails. Like, I think there's an equal ratio of him succeeding and failing, and that's, I find that endearing that he's like a roach, he's like you don't see, like, villains in long-running series like this have the, like, lower hand or fail or fuck up this much, without undermining them.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a good call out because I think that goes in hand with his chaotic nature and that sort of that ego, that swagger that he has. A big theme in lots and lots of stories, like maybe not every story, but like almost every heroic story, not the moral, but like the way that the bad guys lose is that they underestimate the good guys. They have their ego is too large, blah, blah, blah. And Blackbeard has that, and he has a fun version of that. But I do think that normally when he sort of, quote unquote, fails, like you're saying, it's because he's got that Blackbeard swagger, that ego. And again, he underestimates. He thinks, oh, I've beaten the pirates. They can't do anything. But then, oh, Beppo does have something he can do. I didn't expect that because I underestimated them. It's very sort of classical storytelling to have the bad guy lose by having an ego too large. Pride goes before the fall is like the phrase that you'll hear a lot, right? The bad guy's too prideful, has too big of an ego, is too underestimates the good guy, and the good guys take advantage of that to, in this case, Beppo and Law get away by swimming away. So.
And that's exactly right. I like that he has kind of infinite pride that goes away the moment he has the lower hand. Like when he was fighting Whitebeard right before Whitebeard died, like he started begging for his life because he was losing that hard. He was going to get killed. And I think the funniest Blackbeard failure moment was in Impelled Down. Towards the end of that arc, Luffy was escaping. He was completely worn out, and Blackbeard freed a bunch of prisoners and was like taunting Luffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was taunting Luffy, like kind of blocking the path. and Luffy just punches him in the stomach really, really hard, and he buckles, and then Luffy runs past him.
Yep.
And I'm like, whoa, that's the final boss right there, got buckled.
Yeah. And I also think it's a good...
Great.
I also think it's a good thing. I'll bring it back to power scalers again, because why not? Most people, if you were power scaling, who's the strongest person in One Piece? I don't think Blackbeard is number one on any list. Like, maybe, but as powerful as Blackbeard is, like, he's clearly still kind of clawing his way up. He is still kind of struggling for his position, as powerful as he is, right? He doesn't just come in and, destroy the Heart Pirates instantly. They fight and he wins, right? I think that the relation that you feel towards Blackbeard, that a lot of people, and the good writing behind him, is that he still has to struggle for his position as a sort of bad pirate, right? He is not given it for free. He's not sort of gifted it. He has to struggle for it and earn it, essentially. And I think that's, again, just good character, good storytelling. So,
yeah, honestly, kind of just like you said, a foil for Luffy through and through.
Exactly, yeah, pretty much. Luffy has to struggle for his type of freedom, and Blackbeard does too, and that makes it work. So, anything else on One Piece?
Nah, let's move on. I could talk about One Piece forever. So
I know I could too. I was like,
go
go back and talk about the last chapter. No, it's great though. This week in Weekly Shonen Jump, we got another new series. So this series is called Kill Blue. And this is by Tadatoshi Fujimaki, previously known for, is the English title just Kuroko's Basket? Kuroko no Basket?
The main character is named Kuroko, so I think it's like Kuroko's Basketball or something.
I think it's possessive, yeah. I think it's just Kuroko's Basket. Kuroko no Basket is what I'll call it. But this is the new series from him. This was, in my opinion, well, I'll talk about the premise. The premise here is kind of an old, jaded assassin guy. He goes through and talks about, I don't know how to talk to kids. He's like divorced and his wife took their kid. He like mentions at one point, he's like, I don't know how to talk to kids. Yeah, here he is with like his wife and stuff, and his assassin job essentially, I think, got in the way, or he's too good at being an assassin but not good at everything else. He gets like stung by a bee and transformed into a child and wakes up in his wife works for the assassin group, and essentially he has to go to school and deal with those things, and that's the premise here. Why don't you tell me how you felt about Kill Blue Chapter 1?
It was pretty good. I mean, it was just, I feel like Sakamoto Days does everything this does. It's very similar in terms that it's following a retired assassin effectively.
Yeah.
This guy's not retired, but he kind of is. He's going to school.
Older, right? He's like 40s.
Yeah. I think this needs something to make it stand out. I think that's what it is desperately missing, because everything it's done has been done before, so a lot of it feels samey. But with that said, I thought it was interesting and a fun read through and through.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Yeah. I didn't think it was great. I definitely didn't think it was as good as Tenmaku Cinema, the chapter 1 we got last week.
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, especially, I grabbed this shot, right, which this is like one of the first couple of pages, but this is the exact same situation that happens in chapter 1 of Sakamoto Days, right? It's like
a warehouse too, yeah.
It's like a warehouse shootout with the old assassin and his young quote-unquote apprentice guy, where they kind of save each other in different situations. Like, this is it's almost bit for bit, scene for scene, exactly what happens in Sakamoto Days. It's a little bit different after that, but the kind of premise of it is really samey. I mean, the art here is still really good, so I'm not, at least visually, when I was reading it, there was nothing where I was like, art's a little rough. I think Kuroko no Basket, it generally had really good art, so we'll see how this goes. This is more of a, I'm interested, but I didn't necessarily love the first one. It's not something where chapter 1 has me bought in, where it's like, oh yeah, I'll give this some breaks if it struggles. I think if this kind of doesn't get more interesting in a couple of chapters, even if it doesn't get bad, I don't know if I'll stick with it, because like you said, it's a little generic, a little samey, just kind of at the base level. Nothing felt really special about it yet.
I would agree. Nothing stood out. I had a decent time with it. But
Yeah, not
like,
bad. I don't think it was bad at all. So
I don't think this is something I would like keep reading like I do Sakamoto. You know what I mean? Like forever.
I think it has a chance. I think there's a couple of angles. I think if they pursue the angle of like, okay, his ex-wife is like the doctor that has to figure out why he got changed into a kid, or he connects with his child through being also young. Yeah. I think those are really good kind of heartfelt angles to explore. If we get more of that, or introductions, foreshadowing of more of that, I'll definitely be more interested. Chapter 1 was a lot of setup. It did have kind of a funny gag in this like panda-faced naked man who was just going to flash these high school girls, and then
I actually thought that I didn't like that much. And here's why. I thought it was too. It's like he's fighting a mascot as his first like obstacle.
Yeah.
Felt like a Power Rangers episode, but like a filler one. You know what I mean?
It was kind of hard. Maybe this is part of why I didn't like it, or I didn't think it was great. It was a little hard tonally to figure out, like, okay, is it a standard kind of shonen back to school trope? Old guy has to learn how to go back to school. Is that the angle? Oh, is it funny fights? Is this guy going to be fighting goofy, nude panda men? Is there a serious angle to it? I couldn't really get a nail down on the tone that this chapter 1 was going for. I wasn't sure how funny it wanted me to think it was. I wasn't sure how serious, because it was a little all over the place. Yeah, and it kind of flip-flopped depending. But I did like, there's, again, some really good art. I did like the sort of chalk smoke bomb thing that he does. But then he also just, like, literally pulls a gun as, like, what is he, like 12 or 13 in middle school or something? He just, like, pulls a gun on the panda guy and, like, holds it to his face. It's like, okay. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm kind of just unsure.
You're right. It's probably going to be about, like, reconciliation and understanding his kid. If I had to guess based off the first chapter, it just makes sense as a theme.
It does to me too. I hope that's the angle they go for, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Anything else on Kill Blue, Gautam?
Nah. I'm gonna need more before I can even think more on it. Like it was a pretty simple first chapter that played it safe. So I guess we'll see how it goes.
I think so too. Yeah, played a little safe. Not bad, but not great. I'll keep reading it obviously for a couple of weeks to let you know. There were a couple of other things in Weekly Shonen Jump, at least. Ichigohi Under Control had its last chapter. I didn't read it, and nobody cared.
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, it's not really something I'm concerned about. I did not like that series.
I would like to see that author take their sense of humor and integrate it into a less silly series. Although, yeah, there was just nothing there for us.
I would like them to not write a comedy manga and maybe focus on like drama or something.
Yeah, or integrate their comedy chops into drama. Tenmaku Cinema Chapter 2. We talked about Tenmaku Cinema on the last episode. How are you feeling after Chapter 2 published this week? We got a little bit more. Still feels pretty good to me.
Yeah, it feels great. I like that the girl was just a huge weirdo movie nerd like we thought.
Yep.
Honestly, all the characters just got more to do, more development, and it kind of established the onus of the plot and the main character's goals, or well, all the characters' goals, really.
Right, exactly. Yep.
So I thought it was good. It's still good. So strong start so far. Do you feel the same?
I do. Yeah, I thought I don't remember if we talked about it afterwards or just on the podcast, but the girl also being sort of super into movies, and the conversation that the lead guy and the lead girl had about like where they're like nerding out talking about movies. I like that a lot. I think that even though there's only kind of, I'm trying to think, there isn't an explicit romance being spelled out, only that the girl is really pretty and the guy thinks she's pretty. But I think with their conversation there, that feels like an organic romance builder to me. That's a lot better than just, I'm in love with her, she's so pretty, and oh, what a nice guy, like, which is kind of the standard fare for romance, where instead it's like, oh, these guys are both of these people are hyper movie nerds and they are connecting over that. I like that a lot. And so I definitely think there's going to be some romance there, just like there was in Shokugeki. So looking forward to that.
Actually, it's a pretty natural establishment. It's kind of how it happens in real life,
Exactly, yeah. Connecting over shared interest, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Was there anything else? No, let's talk about the other big one. We're shooting for the stars, all the big publishing things. Let's talk about Chainsaw Man, chapter 127.
Let's do it.
This chapter is called Save the Asa. There was a previous chapter, I don't remember for part 2 or in part 1, called Save the Cat. I think that's maybe the second or... No, that's the first time Chainsaw Man appears in part 2, I think, is a chapter called Save the Cat.
Isn't that also like a kind of just a movie trope and a screenwriting phenomenon? Save the Cat?
It is, yeah. Save the Cat is... there's a cat in a tree, and the hero shows up to save it, and that proves to you that they are a good person. That is the movie trope. So this happens in like The Incredibles. Like there's literally a scene in The Incredibles of Mr. Incredible saving a cat out of a tree.
Right.
It's just one of those things. But yeah, it's an incredibly kind of tropey, show you they're a good person thing. But
that makes the end of this chapter even funnier than it already was. Yeah.
A quick synopsis of where we are. I guess we assume it's Gravity Devil. Is that right? Or the Falling Devil.
Falling Devil. Yeah.
Yeah. Falling Devil has come, and they are here, and they have found Asa and Yoru, and they're making her fall. This, man, speaking of like good character writing, and like I don't even know what to say other than I saw a lot of affirmation on Twitter and Reddit of like, I don't want to use the word suicidal ideation, but clearly Asa is like, the Falling Devil tells her, like, I can tell you don't have a good grasp on life. Like, you don't really want to keep living. You're just afraid of it'll hurt to die. And she's like, I promise you it's not going to hurt. And Asa's just like, okay. And she's like, yep. If you promise me it's not going to hurt, I will die. Because nothing goes right for me. I'm awkward. I hate myself, blah, 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 all this stuff. I saw a lot of people relating to those kind of feelings. And I think that's like something that Chainsaw Man has done in the past with Denji in part 1 and Asa in part 2. A lot of this sort of like lack of self-confidence and not knowing who you are or where you belong, or Denji's kind of sense of betrayal of all these people he trusts in part 1, like really eats at him by the end of that. But yeah, I mean, I love the writing here. I think it's really smart. I think it's really mature, even though we're kind of capstoned with something a little less mature. But like these 2 pages here, where Asa's falling, and it's like, it's true. I feel at peace. I won't cause trouble for everyone else. I won't have to lie in bed thinking about all the things I did wrong. All I want is to fall asleep. And then it's, and it's like, those are like, for most people, we've felt those kinds of thoughts. Like, I did something wrong. I want to forget about it. I just want to feel at peace. Like, even if you may not be depressed now, maybe you have been in the past. These are thoughts, that I've felt at some point in my life, not right now, but
being, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's anxiety. It's depressive episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's part of the human experience. And I think Fujimoto is such a weird author he has this very solid explanation and characterization of the human experience, and he tells it through a manga called Chainsaw Man, where like it's a chainsaw man fighting demons and devils and stuff, and it's just such a weird dichotomy between those two things. But yeah, and then I like that Chainsaw Man comes in and saves Asa as she's falling here, and instead of like, normally he would be like, I heard what you're saying, don't say that. He just goes, come on! Like,
come on! Hey!
Come on!
I think Denji, I said this a few chapters ago, we didn't talk about it. I think Denji is probably the perfectly written idiot protagonist.
Yes.
He got hit by like a mental attack that manifests all your depression, anxiety, and like worst moments in life. That's how the Falling Devil works. It makes you fall into despair or depravity. Chainsaw Man's solution to that was chainsawing his own brain so he didn't have to think about it.
Chainsaw his brain can't think about bad stuff. Okay, mental attack done. And this is
dude.
I love that. It was the last chapter, but I love that because it isn't like, oh, I thought of this just now, and it's it's like a new attack. He's like, oh no, I know how to handle mental attacks. I've done this before. Like, this is my standard. This is my standard MO for mental attacks. But yeah, Chainsaw Man comes in and saves Asa from falling. And she kind of fights against him. She's like, no, I was okay. Like, I wanted to fall. I'm okay. I accept it. Like, life's nothing but pain. And which is like, again, it's just like, I really like Asa as the sort of new, I don't say new main character, but as sort of the focus for part 2.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think her and Denji actually work as a couple.
It's
weird
so
as that
good.
sounds.
I really hope that is explored a little bit more. And they don't necessarily have to end up together, quote unquote, but these two interacting is some of my favorite stuff in part 2.
I agree.
Yeah. But again, I like speaking of idiot protagonist, Denji likes cats, right? Because Power had a cat. He's like, so I saw someone point out that he, what is it? The 3 things he points out are like, think about like cats, ice cream, and something else. And it's like, what was it?
I'm trying to think of the last one too. Cats, ice cream, something else. Yeah.
Yeah, but someone pointed out that it's like, cats is like his attachment to Power. I think the other thing was something from Aki, and then ice cream is like what his connection with Nayuta, right? With Makima Reborn.
Right.
So it's like he points out the 3
dogs.
things. Is it just dogs?
Yeah, I think dogs is his connection, his love for Makima.
Maybe that's what it was. Dogs, cats,
Power,
ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe ice cream is his Aki attachment, and dogs is Nayuta / Makima. Maybe something like that. I don't know. But anyways, but again, it's smart that like it's good character writing when instead of when a character pulls on their own experiences to talk to another character, this is just like when you say it out loud, you're like, yes, Chainsaw Man should say things like when he's trying to sort of sell the world and living back to Asa and say, like there are things worth living for. Here are the things worth living for. You could have your character say generic things like, think of like the sunrise or like smelling flowers on a beautiful day, right? These sort of generic things. But no, it's good. It's better writing for Denji, for Chainsaw Man in the situation, to say things that he likes, that he has personal, that have sort of invested him more in his own life, which is, again, his connections with these other characters, dogs, cats, ice cream, the way those kind of relate to his experiences. It's just, again, I just can't praise it enough for being like subtle and yet obvious kind of character writing. It's just very good. So
I completely agree. And I think you can even read these panels and like it's good character writing, but he says it like Denji would, like a freaking high schooler would, Yes. Life seems super awesome, and then it turns into a hamburger made of crap. It's like it's crude, but you totally get what he's trying to say here. Yeah.
Disasters keep piling up like hamburger made of crap, right? They look at each other and he's like, "Yep, it is right." I like that. This is the part that everyone's talking about, so we'll talk about it too because it's funny. Asa's like, how do you get over that? How do you get over the stress of thinking that things are just getting worse and worse? I like this also, where he says, I'm not over it. I've got something to live for, something I look forward to so much that I'm willing to eat that crap burger. Asa says, what's that? And he says, sex. I want to have sex. And she's just like, and then the chapter ends.
That's perfect. I think that's also so jarring. It's so fucking funny. First of all, Denji's a simple man. But it's also so jarring that it kind of snapped her out of her depressive stupor, Yeah. It's great.
It's also just so good because one of those like I have and I'm not over it. I think one of the character traits that I think is most interesting is one that I saw in Batman a couple of times, I want to say, where they're like, "Oh, Batman, you're so like brave," or they're like, "Batman's a man without fear. You don't fear anything." I want to say he's talking to Robin or Dick Grayson or somebody, and Batman's like, "No, like I'm afraid all the time of everything," and like real courage is like continuing on or pressing on or facing those fears. This feels kind of similar to me, where it's like all those all those bad things happen to me still. I'm still Chainsaw Man, right? I still got trapped in the Infinity Devils thing. But the power I have is pushing through it in my pursuit for sexual intercourse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Denji is Batman who wants to fuck and has no money.
Exactly. Yes. Something like that. I don't know. It's just again, I just can't.
No,
literally can't praise it enough for good character writing, and this chapter especially, I think was such a good one to bring to the podcast because it's just got I mean, people are talking about the funny sex joke at the end, but like, this is in character. Like, Denji spent the first half or 75% maybe of part 1 wanting to touch boobs.
He's a simple man.
Yes. And he's upgraded. He touched boobs. He says, okay, I have rounded, what is boobs? First base? Second base? Second base. Third base? I don't remember the bases anymore.
I don't know the bases.
I think
it's one of the bases.
Who knows? But yeah, anything else to say about Chainsaw Man? That was a great chapter. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite things every week. So
nothing else to say. It's fun as fuck. I am also looking forward to it.
Yep. There was one more thing I wanted to say. I'm predicting either next week or the week after we're going to be bringing Dan. I wanted to say what a fucking role Dan is on recently. I'm minor spoilers, but Grandma Space Alien Marines, I'm into that. That is cool. Such a cool angle.
What a cool fucking concept. They look like they're all Master Chiefs except they're old women under the
except
helmet,
it's old ladies. It's so good. That's true female power. Cool. Well, I think that's it for manga. Anything else you wanted to mention in manga this week that caught your interest or wanted to say a few words about?
Just a few words. Just shout out to Ranger Reject. This chapter was hype as fuck. If you haven't read it and if you like Ranger Reject, go read it. It's really good.
Incredibly hype. A mic drop moment at the end. You can go check out the White Gray Black YouTube channel. That guy, whoever he is, just dropped a short that was kind of funny about it. So
it was a good short. Go watch it.
That's my channel. Cool. Yeah, Ranger Reject always good. Ranger Reject and Dan are my sort of every week. This is always good things that I read.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Dan was on a roll because I was gonna say it's like what? It's like 100 chapter roll.
I was gonna say it's literally always been on a roll, but yes, it is on like a hyped up fast roll right now. It's going. I think my one, and not even a complaint, my one sort of curiosity was backstory for what's her name, and now that we're like getting that, and that's I'm like
Godzilla girl
for Godzilla girl, yeah. I'm bad with Japanese
Vamola.
Vamola, yes. Yeah. We're getting that now. It's great. Cool. Anything else in manga?
Nope.
Tell me what else you're interested in. Let's do some extra stuff at the end. What else are we reading, doing, want to see?
I actually just want to see Suzume.
I do also. Is it still showing anywhere? We should go see it.
It is, yeah. Tickets on me this time if you want to go see it sometime coming up. I'm down. We'll plan that later. Anyway, I saw Your Name in theaters like 4 or 5 times. It's insane.
That's like your favorite movie ever, right?
Not ever, but it's like up there. You know, I really like it.
4 or 5 times in theaters. Like I like that movie. I saw it once at home. I was like, that was a very good movie.
Say it's a 10 out of 10 in my eyes. Your Name. So it's one of them. You know. For sure. I really liked it. I saw Weathering with You. I saw it once. I didn't like it that much. It's a bit of a haze in my brain actually, because
so these movies are all by a director named Makoto Shinkai, and he did Kimi no Na wa, Your Name, which was a massive successful hit. Yes, he did. Yeah, Garden of Worlds. He did. What was the other one you just said? Weathering with You. And he did one more, but the big thing is I do not think he has found the same success as Your Name yet. I've heard this one is pretty good, though. Suzume.
Yeah, I've heard this is better than Weathering with You and worse than Your Name, which is...
I mean...
That's totally fine with me. I thought Your Name was... I don't think he can make another movie as good as that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to start that high. So this is called Suzume... What was the Japanese name? I had it here. Suzume no Tojimari, which is Suzume's looking up. Or maybe Suzume looks at the sky or something. But yeah, I'm curious to see this too. We should definitely go see it because visually his movies are always very good. You can just watch. I think Garden of Worlds is like 20 or 30 minutes long, maybe like 40 minutes long, kind of like a mini movie. A little bit of dubious topic there, like there's like a teacher-student romance. Or is that Garden of Worlds or is that a different one? That's like in the
I have not seen
Garden of Sinners. No, that's a totally different. I'm getting mixed up. Anyways, but yeah, I'm super curious to see this. I have heard it is better. That's like you said, better than Weathering with You. Not as good as Your Name.
You know, at the very least, I I didn't like Weathering with You, but I had a good experience watching it simply because it's beautiful.
Yes.
So even though I had issues with the plot and characters, I thought the movie was a good experience. I think this will be the same.
Cool. Yeah,
And it
we
has
should
like a
definitely go see it
Ghibli
and talk
vibe,
about it.
right? They
It
have
has
little
what?
critters, and they have like little critters and inanimate objects with eyes on them.
Yeah, this
In the
one I
trailer,
think the guy like turns into a chair or something for
yeah,
some part, all the movie, most of the movie. I don't know.
that's what it looked like. So yeah, it has some Ghibli aspects. It looks like. So
Cool.
I'm curious.
Neato. I have been reading this past. I think I just started last night or 2 nights ago. This series is called Medalist. This is by Tsuruma Ikeda or Ikada. Ikada. This is a story about an ex-professional, sort of near Olympic level ice dancer coach, who's the guy on this cover, and he essentially he sort of fails at the Japan Nationals, which is kind of one step removed from Olympics. He doesn't place. You kind of get some backstory of he failed. He was in couples ice dancing, but he meets this cute little girl, and she wants to be a figure skater, and he's like, wow, she's really pretty good. It's a pretty classic kind of sports trope thing, but man, there's just a lot of crying. You read the first chapter or two, and you're like, yep, this is gonna break me when she wins or when she loses. Doesn't matter. There's lots of crying. There's lots of tears. It's very emotional, very kind of sports tropey. But the characters are great. The art's good. The writing's really good. This got announced to have a anime adaptation, I think, a couple of weeks ago, which is kind of something that usually pushes me to pick things up because I want to be able to talk about them when people watch the anime. But yeah, I mean, the art in this is really good. The action paneling when they are doing the ice dancing, the ice skating, is really good. And a lot of sports manga don't really have this. So, I mean, yeah, every time she's done maybe 2 or 3 performances in the maybe 5 chapters I've read. But yeah, every time there's a performance, it's yeah, okay, I can connect these together. I can see this. The flow is really good. So this has got a lot going for it. I'm definitely going to keep reading this. Super good series so far.
I already like the premise. It seems it seems like a lot of sports stuff, but I'm a sucker for that trope, you know?
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't end like Whiplash, we're good.
It does not have the same tone or vibes as Whiplash, so I think we'll be okay there. Yeah, but I mean, there's just a lot of I feel like just saying it's a lot of really good writing doesn't tell you much, but there's a lot of sort of hidden kind of trauma with the coach because one of the things that connects him to this little girl is he started late. There's apparently this big thing. It's if you want to be a master class figure skater, you have to start when you're 5 or 6. You have to start really young and do it, and it's expensive, and your parents have to be into it. And this coach guy started when he was 14. And he kind of learned the hard way by failing a bunch. And so he sees this girl, she's 10 or 9 or 10, I think. And he's like, oh, people are telling this girl it's too late, but it's not. She's got even a head start of over I was, and I can keep her from making the same mistakes. So they have that connection of both kind of starting later to being ice skaters, figure skaters. But it's just really good. There's a lot of good character stuff that connects these two. He's goofy, and then he gets on the ice and is wow, he's really good. Again, he was barely removed from being an Olympic medalist, or an Olympic competitor, I guess, from Japan. But yeah, it's just a really good little sports series. There's only, I want to say, maybe 20 or 25 chapters published right now. Let me double check.
Did they explore the crippling emptiness that follows having one direct passion for the formative years of your life, and that just ending and it being oh, you can't do that anymore, you're not good enough?
Actually, yes, in chapter 1 they address this.
Okay.
They also address the little girl has a really interesting relationship with her mother. Her mother comes off kind of like a bitch early on, where she's no, it's too late. Your older sister tried it, and I don't remember if she hurt herself or just stopped trying at 14, 15. She's same thing's gonna happen to you. I'm not paying for this. Find a new passion. Find something else to do. But she's no, I really want to do it. And then in the chapter I just read was her mom watches her perform, and she like wins one of her first competitions, and the mom's like, I was wrong, I'm sorry, why didn't you tell me you wanted this? And so it's a nice little redemption arc of like, oh, this stupid bitch mother doesn't support her child, to like, oh, she just didn't know because her child isn't good at communicating. There's a little bit of like
what the fuck, you're her mom. If your child's bad at communicating, you should know anyway. Like, figure it out.
I mean, they explain it in a little bit better way. I think a lot of what I've seen of this kind of discussed on Twitter, I don't want to like, I hate to like even call it out, but like there's a little bit of an implication that the girl might be like, you know, like on the scale of autism somewhere, because it talks about her like not being able to communicate fully. She has communication troubles. She has trouble relating. She gets made fun of because she like, as not like abused, but she's been like bullied at school, obviously, because she can't pay to go skating on her own, but the owner of the skating rink like raises birds, and so he's like, oh, if you dig up some worms from my birds and give them to me, I'll let you skate. And so she's been doing that for like years, and the kids find her digging up worms and are like, oh, it's weird, but it's all really interesting. Oh, and she's also got like she has like a tactile, so like one, I'm not a doctor, also not autistic, so I don't know everything about it, but one of the things with autism a lot of times is like a tactile, like your feeling is either extra sensitive or like provides comfort or something. And she has this thing where because she's dug up so many worms, she like grabs the like, I'm sure, like the little tightening tassels of like a hood, you know, that the coach has like on his jacket. Like when she gets like anxious before performances, she like grabs those because it like reminds her of worms and stuff. Anyways, all of that to say that there's kind of a reason the mom is a little bit dismissive and unconnected with her. But like I said, it's turning around already in the couple of chapters I've read. So really good series, lots of layers and depth to it. Again, can't recommend it enough.
This is interesting, right? Because not related to this manga in particular, but this trope of the parent who saw one of their children like fail or get hurt and how it affected them, and they severely restrict their second child or something for that reason. It happens a lot.
It does.
And I find it hard to say, oh, mom, I understand where you're coming from. You are redeemed. Because I understand where she's coming from right from the beginning, right? Like it's kind of heavy-handed usually, but it's always like, you didn't even talk to your child. You didn't even see your child. Like in the piano one, it's kind of the opposite effect, but like, it's like you didn't see your child play the piano once, you know? It's like you didn't see your child ice skate once. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like even after the redemption arc, it's like, it's not an I empathize with you now moment because you had your reasons for doing what you did. It's like, I understand your reasons from the beginning, and you're redeemed a little bit, but I'm still angry at you. So don't be in the series that much anymore.
and I'm reducing it a little too far because the mom isn't like totally unsupportive. Because she's still like, she like pays for lessons and buys her skates, and like, so she like, the mom before her first performance like stays up all night like sewing sequins on her performance dress. So the mom is like,
okay.
The mom is like multi-layered in a sense that it's like, she doesn't, you know, her older sister didn't do this. She doesn't know, is this really what you want? Are you just a child, you know, chasing butterflies or chasing fireflies or whatever? So it's like very understandable, and the communication stuff with her daughter and all that. But again, the mother is, like I said, multifaceted because like, yeah, she does stay up all night and sew sequins on her dress. She does go to her performance. She does pay for the lessons. So she's not like totally unsupportive. She's just kind of like, shit, like, is this really the thing that you want to just like go all in on? Is this really the thing you want to commit to? But then, like I said, she sees her first performance and it's like, okay, yes, you really do want to do this. You really are very good. You won. But yeah, again, really
she's like protecting her daughter from failure, kind of a thing.
Right. Oh yeah, and I was gonna say it's funny you mentioned that because I'm a second child. I have an older brother, and I have like a first-hand experience of like, oh, the older brother, you know, the parents try something with the older brother and it doesn't work, so they just don't make me do it. They made my older brother. We had like an acre of land where I grew up, and they made my older brother mow that when he was maybe like 13 or 14. My dad had a riding lawnmower. And they made my older brother mow the lawn once. And he and I both have some allergy issues. He has a little bit more than me, or did at the time. And he was out of school for like 2 weeks when they made him mow the lawn. And so I never had to mow the lawn. So like, yeah, this is very understandable of like, if they try something with the older sibling, if it doesn't work, just don't even make the second one do it. Because they were just like, well, even if I'm half as sensitive as my older brother and I mow the lawn and I'm out for 1 week instead of 2 weeks, like that's still not good. So yeah, that's definitely an understandable parental choice there.
I think it's like all beneficial, unless like something severe or like a life-changing injury or something happens. I think it's all beneficial. Like, let kids fail. They learn from that, Like, I think it's fine. But either way, it sounds interesting. I like the art.
The art's really good.
The coloring is really cool too. So
the covers for this, I had a hard time picking one cover to bring because all the covers for this are actually really good. So
yeah,
and it's I want to say it's a monthly publish because like every chapter is like 70 pages long. So this is like it's good because reading a chapter gets you like a lot of sort of cohesive single storytelling in a single chapter, which is something I like. So.
And what is this called again? Medalist?
Medalist, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Medoristu is the Japanese. By
list.
Tsuruma Ikada. But again, another really good series. I don't know if you noticed, but I usually only read good series. I have a hard time bringing something to like more stuff that's like this is bad because if I start reading something bad, I just kind of pass on it and move on to something else that's better. So,
unless it's like Hero Academia where you've been reading it and there's like the sunk cost fallacy kind of thing.
That is I think that is one of the only truly bad series that I've hung on to.
I think I hang on to a lot of bad stuff. Depending on if it's like a guilty pleasure fun bad.
That's okay. If we're talking guilty pleasure fun bad, there's some other stuff. I still read, what is it, the
Girlfriend one.
Time Stop Brave. Well, Rent a Girlfriend. I don't think Rent a Girlfriend's as bad as everybody says, but yeah, Rent a Girlfriend's been pretty bad recently. Time Stop Brave I read religiously. The slave one that shouldn't be called, like Chained Soldier. I'll use the
Chained. Yeah,
that's not great, but also I think it has really good art. So there are a couple of things that are kind of bad.
It's horny as fuck, but I thought it was fun from what I read. Yeah,
I think when that anime releases, I think that'll be a big one because I think that's legitimately like pretty good under the bones of ecchi that it's got. So cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to chat about this week?
Nope. I think we covered a lot.
Let's get out of here then. Thank you everyone for listening or watching. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channels, White, Gray, Black, if you want to check out the sort of other content that I do around manga, and the WGB Weekly Manga Podcast channel, if you want to check out the VODs. If you want to listen to us, if you're watching us, like I often do when I walk my dog, we're on all your major podcast providers. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on RSS if you want to download us directly. And please, one of the things you can do most to help us is just positively reinforce us. Give us a like, a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, whatever the podcast or YouTube channels need. Just go and do that. It's super easy. We really appreciate it. If you really want to help us out, there is a Patreon over at patreon.com/WGBmanga. You can hear some bonus episodes we've recorded talking about some non-manga stuff, some anime, some video games, stuff like that. Just getting us more eyes and ears is always appreciated. If you want, you can check me out on Twitter at WGBmanga. If you want to suggest something maybe we should be reading or talking about, do it there. That's always great. And as always, thank you so much for being with us this week, and please come back next week.
See you later.
And don't forget to read more manga.